All right, guys, real quick about Tamar Braxton and Jeremy Robinson. All right, of course, these two couples they've been in the news for getting engaged. So we're gonna take a look at Tamar Braxton's chart and just from an astrological perspective, and take a look at their engagement from the astrological perspective. Okay, the planetary alignments for their engagement was not hot at all. It was not good. All right, it's just bad timing. People are consistently trying to do things at the wrong time for some odd reason. But they're unaware of this. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If they're not into astrology or numerology, they're unaware that they're doing things at the wrong time. And as we know, um, you guys are students, and some of you guys are astrologers. You know how to do things, or start new things, or start relationships, or anything under Mercury retrograde. A new job, you just don't start anything under that particular energy because it doesn't pan out. The energy is going backwards, so you don't want to start anything like a relationship, a job, anything new. Okay, engagement, marriage. You don't want to do it under Mercury retrograde because it's not going to pan out. It's the clock is just ticking down on it because the energy is going backwards. It's not going forward. Okay. In this case, Tamar Braxton and Jeremy Robinson got engaged on December 25th, which was Christmas. As you guys know, Mercury's still retrograde. It's not going direct until January 2nd. And even then, it'll still be in the shadow. So this was bad timing. And unfortunately, their relationship is not going to fare out. The word engagement is not going to fare out. Okay. It's not gonna be fruitful. Okay. I can just tell you that right now. And you can just sit back and watch the show. And again, this is how you learn astrology. You learn about living it, okay, by seeing the planetary alignments and looking to see what's going to happen and learn from it, okay? So that's what you do. Luckily, I got Tamar Braxton's birth time, so it's all good. She was born March 17th, 1977 at 12:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Severn, Maryland. So now, can she get married? Yeah. I mean, she does have problems in her relationships, and we're gonna take a look at some things and see why. Okay. First and foremost, her sun is at 26 degrees of Pisces. Okay, it's in the third house. Now, what's by the sun? Her Mercury's right by the sun. It's in Pisces. All right, so it's debilitated because it's combust. Of course, we talked about planets being within 8 degrees of the sun, being very debilitated and combust. Not only that, it's in Pisces. Mercury's in Pisces, so Mercury's in its detriment in Pisces. So it's not in a good place. Okay, it's very detrimental for Mercury to be in Pisces. Um, Also, Mercury, of course, rules communication, the way you think. It is in the third house. Now, that is the house of communication. That's the house of, short distance travel and all that good stuff. So the way she communicate, that's the third house. And Mercury's in that house. It's in its detriment. So it's also the way you think. So her thinking is not always clear, okay? Being that Mercury is being debilitated as much as it is in her chart, all right? So she doesn't think very clearly about certain things sometimes, okay? Um, if I was, she was my client, of course, I would tell her to, drink more water so her thinking could be a little clearer. Okay. Now, can she sing? Yes. Oh my gosh, she can sing. She can blow. All right. So, I mean, look at that. She got the Mercury in Pisces. She got a Sun in Pisces. It's in the third house that rules speaking, singing. Singing is with the Pisces. She has Neptune right there at 16 degrees of Sag. That's music. So it's in her first house. And as you know, planets that are in the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th house, any planet in those houses are considered strong, or, like I said before, accidentally dignified. So she has a very strong planet. Also, Neptune is exhausted in Sagittarius. So that's a good thing. Okay, so nothing wrong with that. That is a huge thing with Sag being exalted in Neptune like that. So, and plus she has some nice trines with Saturn, and also she has a trine with um, Venus. Okay, in the fourth house. So that's a grand trine right there with singing and her making money from singing and all that. So she has a very good, lucrative singing career. Also acting. She really should get into acting a little bit more so now than usual. Okay, um, that could be her second win or whatnot because she's natural at acting. All right. So getting back to the relationship part of it. Now we want to take a look at why she has problems in her relationship. First of all, Venus. Venus is in Aries. Okay. Now, Venus is in its detriment in Aries. Okay, so what that means is of course it's not a good spot. It's a little debilitated. Okay, it's very detrimental in Aries. Venus is very detrimental in Aries because it thinks about the self. It loves the self a little bit more so than the other person. Okay, you can say it's selfish, or you can say, hey, they just love themselves a little bit more so than usual. And also it's retrograde, so it's even more debilitated. All right. And of course, we've gone through artists and famous people, as in celebrities that had Venus retrograde, and what happened? They took love for granted. Okay, so of course she's taking love for granted sometime in her life. So when you have Venus retrograde like that, normally those people take love for granted. Okay, now. Let's take a look at Neptune. Of course, it's at 16 degrees of Sag. Now, with Neptune being in Sag in the first house, of course, the house across the way is the seventh house, which rules one-on-one relationships. Okay. Now, even though Neptune is at 16 degrees, it is a separating aspect from the house cusp of 15 degrees of Gemini on the other side. But it still has a little energy. It's losing energy, but it still has energy because Neptune moves really slow. Okay, so Neptune is a higher octave of Venus, so that's a complete opposition. Okay, so and with Neptune being in Sagittarius ruling, freedom, wanting to be free. The whole philosophy about relationships is a little bit at odds with the other person or whatnot. Okay, so let's keep that in mind as we kind of go through. And also, Venus being in at 24 degrees of Aries, being in retrograde, it is making a minor aspect, which is a 51-degree aspect, which is called a septile. All right, it's making a 51-degree aspect to the seventh house cusp. All right, now with this particular aspect. It is a minor aspect, just like I said, but it's warning. Okay, now when a planet is warning, now what that means is the planet is kind of moving away because it's retrograding, so it's moving away from that 15 degrees of Gemini. So, and it represents minor setbacks. Okay, so she will always have minor setbacks in her relationships. Okay, unfortunately, all right. Now she can get over that, but she has to think more about the other person, and that's what that's about. Okay, and also Saturn is making a session quadrate to the Sun. Okay, that's an action-oriented square. So normally in a traditional one-on-one relationships, the man wants the young lady to be a little bit more submissive, and unfortunately, that's explaining that she's not so submissive. She really wants to think about herself a little bit more. Okay. And again, she has Neptune in the first house. That's all about the self. And it's opposing what the other person, which is the 15 degrees of Gemini. Okay. So that's the other person. The whole philosophy and thinking is just off. Okay, it opposes each other. Okay. Now, let's look at Jeremy Robinson's chart for a moment. Now, we don't have his birth time, but um, listen, just looking at his planetary alignments alone, um, he's really not built for a relationship per se. I would say neither one of them is really built for it. They really need to just be friend with benefits. That's just from an astrological standpoint because um, if you look at his chart, he was born October 22nd, 1974. Okay, Beverly, Massachusetts, and so right now his son, the time he was born, it's at 28 degrees of Libra. And also right by the sun, what do you have? You have Uranus right by the sun, okay? And you can tell he's a lawyer because he has a lot of Libra. And that rules the scales, right? So that's that Libra. That's that lawyer feel. Kim Kardashian has a lot of Libra as well. Of course, she had a desire to be a lawyer as well. So you'll see a lot of lawyers with a lot of Libra, okay? Now, in this case, he does have Mars and Venus in Libra. He has a good Libra stellium right there with the Sun, Uranus, Mars, and Venus. Okay, so that's a really good stellium in Libra. His Juno, which rules marriages and relationships, is at 4 degrees of Pisces. Okay, now that is squaring Neptune at 7 degrees. So what that really kind of means, just from that planetary alignment alone, is that um, relationships, they normally get erased, or he erases them by lying to the other person, pulling the wool over their heads, which is kind of what's going on with the two right now. And that's what he's doing kind of with her. So, Pisces rules lies, and that's why that's not good for the asteroid Juno to be in Pisces because, um, you can, that shows that a person could be, telling lies in a relationship. Okay. And this is just kind of telling lies to free him up. Of course, that Neptune in Sag. So, but just taking a look at the day they really got engaged, that's the most important part. So if you take a look at the transits on the 25th, what you will see is that transiting Neptune, okay, which is right here, 24 degrees of Pisces, is making a conjunction to her natal Mercury, okay? Now, of course, like we said, Mercury rules communication, it rules thoughts, it rules decisions that you make. Now, Neptune is in Pisces, which makes it very delusional, okay? And also, that rules, that's kind of the wool being pulled over her head. She's unable to see clearly what's going on. She's unable to think clearly. When Neptune is on or making a conjunction to anyone's Mercury, things are gonna seem cloudy. Okay, you're not gonna be able to think clearly about things, about decisions, clearly about decisions that you want to make. So just keep that in mind. On top of that, Mercury's retrograde, which makes things even more detrimental for you because you're not supposed to make a really major decision during this time, and she made a major decision during Mercury retrograde. Also, I mean, with the retrograde going on, the retrograding Mercury is actually making a square aspect to her natal sun. That's another thing. So she's not thinking clearly about the decision she's making in terms of engagement. So she accepted this engagement under a cloudy mind, okay, under an unclear mind. So, unfortunately, this engagement has an expiration date to it, okay, and we're gonna just kind of watch and see what's about to happen, okay, and we all know once she starts thinking clearly again, um, how things are gonna pan out, okay. So just kind of a quick run down on Tamar Braxton and Jeremy Robinson. This was bad timing, unfortunately. So um, hopefully, they can maybe redo this, okay? Rethink it, redo it. That's what retrograde's all about, right? So they can, try to do this again, but they're gonna have to redo it. All right, do a re-engagement. The third time will probably be a charm if they do it on the right day. Okay, so they need to redo this engagement. All right. All right, so that's it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.